Hello, spot on listeners and viewers, because now we're on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about what are the secrets to staying on these anti obesity medications to be successful. You're going to find out that there is something you need to do when you're on these to have long term success. Because, because we know from research that a lot of people who take these medications don't stay on them for more than a year. Why is that? And how can we change that? Stay tuned. We're going to learn more. Okay, so with me, as I mentioned in the introduction, I've got Dr. Jim Hill here. He's like the guru when it comes to these weight loss medications. And Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming on Spot On and sharing your wisdom with us. Uh, can you just give us a quick overview of how these medications can help people lose weight?
Yeah, Joan, first of all, it's nice to be back with you. I really enjoy this. The bottom line is they make you feel full on less food, okay? So they seem to act on receptors in the brain so that you eat less, but you're happy eating less. They also increase your insulin sensitivity, they slow gastric emptying, and they affect something called food noise.
Okay, can you please what can you explain to what people what food noise? People who haven't know exactly what food noise is, but can you explain that to people?
Yeah. So, Joan, there's a really interesting paper that just came out. The first author is Ditkus, but it's Corby Martin's group. And they actually developed a method of assessing food noise. 7 questions. Let me read these, and I think
Okay,
it will help
great.
people understand it.
Okay,
One, I find myself constantly thinking about the food throughout the day. Two, I seem to think about food all day, even though I do not want to. Three, my thoughts about food feel uncontrollable. Four, I'm always thinking about food, even when I'm not hungry. Five, I spend too much time thinking about food. Six, my thoughts about food have negative effects on me and or my life. And seven, my thoughts about food distract me from what I need to do. So the higher you are on those questions, the more that you're experiencing food noise. It's basically thoughts about food much of the time.
and that's so interesting because I'm thinking to myself, some of those I could relate to, Jim.
Right?
I mean, hello, I'm 110% Italian. I mean, we would just finish like Thanksgiving dinner and be stuffed, and I'd be playing the Christmas meal. So you know what I mean? I mean, I can relate.
So that's the issue. Everybody experiences some of this. Now, what they do is they rate these on a 4 point scale. So the higher you are, the more you have food noise. And not many people are going to be zeros. I mean, come
Right.
on, we all think about food some of the time, but it begins to be a way that we can actually study it. We can actually measure it, study it, figure it out.
Right. So interesting. And so you can imagine that if you rate high on this food noise scale, how it takes over your day and minimize your productivity. So this medication actually reduces that. So again,
It,
that must be an eye opener for people
so,
who really
so
are high on this
people
risk.
who I talk to basically say it's a game changer. It's a
Really?
game changer to not think about food all the time.
Right. So you could be productive. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So glad that we found that out. How much weight can a person expect to lose when they're taking these medications?
So the two sort of primary medications right now are GLP-1 medications, Zepbound and Wegovy.
Okay.
And the Zepbound seems to be a little bit more effective. And some of the clinical trials show that the average weight loss is now up around 20% of starting weight. Now, that's the average. It means that probably half the people are losing less, half are losing more. So some people are actually losing 25, 30% of their weight. This is far beyond what we've ever been able to do before with anything other than surgery.
Right, right. And I'm a registered dietitian, and actually, my specialty was weight loss when I had my private practice. And you're right. I had success with some quite well and not so much with others, you know? And
Mhm.
so, you know, if you can really, really have that much of a success with people, that is unbelievably dramatic. I mean, that could reduce your risk of high blood pressure. You can lower that by losing some weight, which increases your risk for stroke. Um, type 2 diabetes, I can imagine that kind of a weight loss. If you have pre-diabetes, which you know is on deck to get diabetes if you know if they don't start making lifestyle changes, one of which is losing excess body fat. That's dramatic that, to prevent diabetes. I mean, this is really big numbers.
But even more importantly, Joan, people are happy with the weight loss they achieve. I mean, we've had great weight loss programs. We're happy when we go out and produce 10, 12%. But you know, people weren't, it didn't meet their goals. They wanted to lose more. Now people are actually achieving an amount of weight loss that is at or near their goal. Amazing.
Right. And you know, Jim, what's amazing when I think about that, you're taking that much weight off. Think about the reduced pressure on your knees, on your hips. So you talk about, you know, there maybe being less pain. And that's in
Yes,
everyday
absolutely.
life, and how dramatic that be. They could play with their grandkids. They can go play softball themselves. They can, you know, it's just, like you said, a game changer and a life changer, which is
It is. These are wonderful, wonderful new tools,
right,
but they're not the end all magic bullet. They're just very powerful tools.
right. Because there are some side effects that,
There are some side effects.
right.
Now, the side effects, because this mimics a hormone produced in your GI system,
Hmm.
most of the side effects are related to that. So, most everybody gets the common ones: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn. Usually these get better with time and are manageable. And I got to tell you, Joan, for losing 20% of their body weight, people will see these as good trade offs.
Right.
Now, there are some more serious side effects, and though they're rare, you can get bowel blockages, stomach paralysis, pancreatitis, kidney failure, and gallbladder disease, which is why you really need some medical monitoring while you're using these.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get to that exactly because now and it takes a village and it takes a healthcare team. And so not only, you know, this is why it should be prescribed by a physician you know, who is into this field and understanding it quite well, but you need a team. You may
You
have to
need a
work with
team.
a nurse practitioner
Yeah.
and most importantly, work with a registered dietitian
I
nutritionist.
think a prescription should come with a referral to a registered dietitian.
Oh my God! This, do you understand why I have this man on the show all the time? This is why. Okay, so I agree because you know when they're happy, and in my experience, you know, counseling people to help them lose weight. When they're losing weight, they're like happy, happy, happy. So, so we have a tool, as you said, this medication. Then they're losing weight, so they're happy, happy. So this is the time when they are happiest, when you can have work with a dietitian to start making lifestyle
Yes.
changes that
Yes.
may have, you know, caused them to, you know, accelerate the weight gain. So now while they're happy, now we start with, you know, changing some food choices in our diet, you know, getting more high fiber fruits and vegetables in your diet. And I always say that they're full of fiber and water, produce, so they fill you up before they fill you out. Let's get in the habit of getting that in your diet, more fiber, more fluid, because a lot of time these people get dehydrated. But let's start making these lifestyle changes when they're happy. Because Jim, you said this, because you gave a wonderful talk on this. A lot of people don't stay on these.
So this is what's really amazing, Joan. Now, these drugs were developed with the idea that they would be used chronically. In
Right.
other words, you go on the meds, you stay on them your whole life. We do this with some other drugs, with blood pressure meds and diabetes meds. So that's kind of the thought, I think, behind the companies developing them. What happens in real life is very different because The data we're getting primarily from insurance companies that are looking at people that get the drugs suggests that at least half the people don't stay on these over a year. So half the people that go on them, and presumably they're successful at losing weight, don't stay on them. And the one thing we know from clinical trials, when you stop the meds stop working and you regain the weight.
Yeah, Jim, do you know why? Any clues to why they stop it? I mean, if because you're saying to yourself, "Oh my goodness gracious, losing weight, everything's great. Like, why stop?"
So in this one large study, that the two top reasons were side effects. And again, Joan, you said it. While you're losing weight, you're a little bit more tolerant of side effects. But now your weight isn't changing. You're just keeping it off. And now, if you're still experiencing the side effects, that's a problem. Number two is cost. If your insurance does not cover these, you're talking about over $1,000 a month in many cases for these meds. A third reason that we're seeing more and more is just this sense of I shouldn't have to take meds to manage my weight, right? And it's fine. You might do it for blood pressure, but somehow you're saying, "Oh, it's not right to have to take drugs for my weight." A couple of other reasons. We find that people miss food. You're not hungry. So people that, entertain a lot, they enjoy nice restaurants. Now food isn't doing it for them and they miss that. So there are several reasons why people can't or choose not to continue.
Jim, do you think, and I can understand all those reasons. First of all, I just want to get out that there should be no feeling bad about taking these drugs. If you have diabetes and you have to take insulin or medication, what you're going to feel bad that you have diabetes? The pancreas is pooped out, and you got to take some medication to get your blood sugars, so you don't feel bad about that. Or as in high blood pressure, you don't feel bad. So, first of all, you shouldn't feel bad because there's so many reasons why people have a challenge of, gaining weight and keeping it
Well,
off.
I think the drugs themselves argue for that. They impact your biology.
Right.
People couldn't do it with willpower because their biology works against them. So now you're fixing the biology, and people should not feel bad about that. In some way, it's just leveling the playing field.
That's
It's
exactly right.
making it so now you're not fighting biology to keep your weight off.
Yeah, where were you like 20 years ago, buddy, when I was in my private practice? Because I would feel like I failed them if they couldn't lose weight. Some people I said before that they lost weight, some didn't. But really, those people that probably didn't lose weight had this issue biologically, things they needed help. They
Joan, if
so
it were willpower, we would
right,
all be
right.
thin. There are
Oh,
people that have lots of willpower, but they were fighting their biology. And man, you're going to lose when you're fighting your biology,
yeah, yeah. That's exact. Don't ever fight with Mother Nature, Jim.
right?
She's gonna win, honey. I'm sorry about that. Um, do you think put on your get your crystal ball out. Do you think that maybe they will start when you get on maintenance? Okay, so you lose 20% and everything is hunky dory. Do you think they might start reducing, micro dosing it? Like, in other words, you don't take as much of it, and maybe helps reduce the side effects when you're on maintenance. Do you think like, they may be changing that, or what do you think?
I think that's the exciting part.
Okay,
So let's say one model is you go on the drugs and you stay on the drugs forever. And if that works for you, no problem. That's a great strategy. But for all these people who can't or don't want to stay on drugs, we need to give them an alternative or alternatives. That could be microdosing. Now people are using some of these other meds that aren't as effective for weight loss, but might work for weight loss maintenance. And then one of the areas I've been working on, we've got to give people a lifestyle program that if they want to go off the drugs, we give them a way to do that. Keep in mind, if you don't have a plan, you're going to regain the weight.
right.
We need to give people several options. And the other thing I would tell people, think about this when you start the meds. We've been asking people, Joan, who start the meds, what's your long term plan for keeping weight off? You know the number one answer? I haven't thought about it. I
Right.
don't have a plan. I just want to get the weight off.
Right.
So you have to think up front, okay, let's assume the drugs are going to work. Start thinking about what your long term plan is. Is it to keep them forever? Is it some of this other stuff? But the exciting research is going to be developing these programs that some combination of lifestyle and meds to keep the weight off.
Right. And that now I'm gonna go back to this whole thing is when you start these medications to work with a registered dietitian nutritionist who can from the get-go start out making lifestyle changes, both what you're eating, when you're eating, why you're eating, and here's your favorite that I know you love, physical activity.
Yeah, and the drugs don't do that. I
Right.
think a lot of people had this idea, well, if you take the drugs and lose weight, you're going to want to be active. I'm not sure that's the case. And it brings to the other point of one thing we're preaching out there is we may need to rethink success. Success is not just the number on the scale. If you lose weight, you keep it off, you're not eating healthy, you're not exercising, is that really success? The scale is not the end all be all. We need to come up with other ways of success. And that's where a registered dietitian can help people understand other aspects of their lifestyle I keep saying the real goal here is happiness. Weight is a part of happiness. Health is a part of happiness. But what people really want is to be happier. And that's more than just the scale to measure success.
Didn't you say, because I hang on your every word, okay, didn't you say a while ago, maybe, that when it comes to maintenance, physical activity is key?
Physical activity is helpful for weight loss,
Mhm.
it's critical for
Critical.
weight loss maintenance. And that's the one worry I have about these meds is basically you're taking away the need for physical activity, helping people maintain their weight on a intake and a low expenditure. And everything we've learned about success is successful people are exercising a lot and they're eating a lot. So these meds are artificially keeping your intake low. And I worry about that in the long run.
Right. And again, here we go again. When you start taking them, you're making a whole lifestyle change. Then we're also talking about how to get more movement. I think one of the most brilliant things we stopped saying exercising and said physical activity.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
exercising. I got to get a gym bag. I got to get sneakers. I got to go to the gym. You know, physical activity is go walk to go get a gallon of milk. When you
Any
take in the
kind of
car,
movement helps. Just
right,
move your
right.
body. Your body was meant to move. And, movement is more than just being able to eat more, it's actually optimizing your metabolism. If you stop exercising, your metabolism gets sluggish, it doesn't work well. Movement can totally correct that.
Right. And Jim, isn't there also a problem, as with any kind times you lose weight, that you're also losing some lean muscle when
Yeah,
you are losing weight?
and that's an issue that's been in particular raised with these medications.
Mhm.
When you lose weight, if you come through our program and you lose weight, not all the weight you lose is going to come from fat. Some of it is going to come from muscle, other lean body masses. The question on these meds is, are you losing proportionally more muscle than you would expect with weight loss without the meds? That question has not been answered, but it's one of those nagging things out there that we need more research for. My guess, Joan, is there going to be particular groups of people that might be particularly susceptible, like me, older folks, where maintaining muscle mass is critical. There may be a problem there. We don't know yet, but it's something to watch out for.
Right. He would go back, making sure you're getting nutrition and healthful guidance, because we know now that you got to make sure when you're on these medications you're having adequate amount of protein and it's stretched out throughout the day, not just banking it all at dinner. And we also know the physical activity is will help preserve the lean muscle mass too. So again, it's looking at this whole picture to make maintenance a lot easier
Well,
and a way of life. That's
Well, that's again where there's a great need for registered dietitians because a lot of people, I've talked to people on these meds that say, I have to set my alarm clock to remember to eat.
right.
Okay, Well, there's a downside to that.
Yes.
There may be nutrient deficiencies. And this is why a registered dietitian is going to help you make sure you get the kinds of food that aren't going to cause you to have nutritional deficiencies.
And I want people to think about that. So if your diet was not really that healthy to begin with, and you're taking this medication, you're just eating less of a not so
Yeah,
healthy diet.
that's a great point. Again, people said, oh, you're going to take these meds, you're going to improve your diet and exercise. You don't have to do that. You're
Right.
going to take these meds. You can eat crappy foods because you're eating less of them and lose weight.
Right. But
That's
we
not optimum success.
and that's not long-term health. And let's remember
Right.
something here that everything's hunky dory because you're losing weight, but really, are you feeding your muscle mass? Are you feeding your bones? Are you what are you
Yes.
doing here? Are you
Yes.
right? And so you really have to look at the total picture to do that. So again, this is so hot, these medications. I think it's so important that people understand that they have to work with somebody while they're taking
Well,
them to increase the success long term. I want to ask you, A, do you think the price is going to come down? What do you think?
I think the price will come down a little bit. The problem with the insurers, I mean, this data is suggesting that people don't stay on them long term and likely to regain the weight. If I'm an insurance company, I'm saying, why would I want to pay for a medication that produces short term benefits, but those benefits are going to go away when you regain weight? So I hope that the price will come down, and I hope that insurers will begin to cover these. But time will tell.
Right.
Number one, these meds are here to stay. They're wonderful tools. It would be crazy to get rid of them. But I think we have to figure out how to make them more accessible. You know, we were interviewing some physicians, and they basically said, there's no way we're going to make these drugs available to everybody that can need them. So there becomes a who gets them, who doesn't get them. If you're a rich Hollywood actress, you can take these things even if you don't need them. If you're a poor, overweight person in southern Alabama, you're going to have trouble getting access to them. So we need for costs to come down. We need for insurers to figure out how to cover these more.
What about the whole compounding? I'm
Oh
seeing
my God.
things on the internet. You can get these for a fraction of the cost. Can you enlighten us about this?
It's the Wild West.
Yeah.
Compounding, basically, the pharmacies are putting this stuff together from scratch. We don't know what's in it. They haven't been tested, and they're out there saying, here's just like Ozempic or Zepbound. We don't know. Probably some of them are just fine, some of them maybe not. But you're trying a product which is totally untested. So I have a lot of concerns about that.
Yeah, I do too. And uh, you you may be losing weight, but if you're doing something and it's so dangerous and you're doing other harm, really,
Yes.
you talk about long
Well,
term goals. Hello, long term goals is to have a happy life and be healthy and to
one of
live
the
a long
things I
life.
want to go back to, and you said it earlier, engage a registered dietitian right from the beginning. Now, think about it. These are injectable drugs, they're ramp up. There are some physicians that probably do a great job of telling you how to do it. Others are probably just giving you the prescription and say, go out and do it. You need someone to hold your hand through this, to prepare for the negative side effects, to look at how you can manage your diet. Engage a registered dietitian right from the get go. They can help you ramp up, they can help you understand which drugs are going to be better for you. It's this a big, big help if you engage somebody before you go on the meds.
Right. You can find a registered dietitian at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics at eatright.org. And a lot of insurance companies will cover the cost of meeting with a registered dietitian
Because they
because
understand how
that's
important
right.
it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, okay. You're still looking in the crystal ball. I got another crystal ball question. What do you think about oral, or like pills? Will this ever come into like an oral form?
I actually think it will. I
Hmm.
think that's something that the companies will figure out and will get right. Right now, The most effective ones are injectable. I think
Yeah.
you inject yourself once a week or something. I believe that we do have some oral versions, but they're not as effective right now. I
Hmm.
think the oral versions will get better. So I would be surprised if we don't see more and more effective oral administration.
Right. Because I think that that's also a barrier too. I think some people are, I'm not getting needles. You
Well,
know what
and
I mean?
again, during weight loss,
Right.
people will do stuff while they're losing weight, but now you're not, your weight's not changing,
Right.
and you inject yourself the rest of your life.
Yeah. Right. Right. And so it's all of a sudden it's not looking as rosy as it used to be.
Exactly.
Right. So again, if we can couple this possibly oral, but also with this guidance during when you're in the happy days and for maintenance, man, this is going to be good. And let's remember, when you're looking at the leading causes of death among Americans, we have number one, heart disease, certain cancers, stroke, and diabetes, and all for obesity increases the risk of all of those. So,
Absolutely.
so getting the weight off. This is just not cosmetic. This is long-term good health. Dr. Jim Hall, I just love talking to you. I'm telling you. So
It's a
I want to.
fun time, Joan. It really
It
is
is.
a fun
It
time.
is a fun time. And you know why? Because good things are happening. That's why it's a fun time.
For the last several decades, we've made minimal, incremental progress in this field. And these new effective medications have been a positive disruption for our
Right.
field.
Right. And
We don't
boy,
have all the answers, but man, if you had come to me even 5 years ago wanting 20% weight loss, I would have said your chances are pretty low. Right now, your chances are pretty good.
and that is just and a life changer for so
A
many.
life changer.
Life changer. Life changer. All right, Dr. Jim, you are just the bestest, and thank you so much for coming on Spot On.
Let me say one more thing to the
Sure.
dietitians out there. These drugs are not your enemy, they are your friend. Be glad they're out there because this is creating so many opportunities for you. They're not the competition, they are your ally.
Well, thank you. Because gosh, we
Joan,
just
it's been a pleasure as always talking with you.
thank you. Thank you again.